Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this press conference on the topic of green claims. There are many issues being debated in Brussels at the moment, which are relevant for agriculture and food production. This week, we have a launch of a long-awaited strategic dialogue on the future of agriculture on Thursday. Tomorrow, we have a vote on the deregulation of novel genomic techniques as well. But there is another important piece of legislation which is being discussed and which will have quite some important impact on the future of agriculture, which is the substantiating green claims proposal. It was presented by the Commission last March. It's being processed in co-decision right now. So there are ongoing discussions in the European Parliament on the one hand, and we are at the stage of negotiating compromise amendments with a vote scheduled for the 24th of February. And there are also ongoing discussion on the Council on this green claim legislation, and the Belgian presidency aims at reaching a common position by June. So I'm Eric Gall, Deputy Director at IFOAM Organic Europe, representing the organic food and farming movement. And the organic movement welcomes the green claims proposal and its intention to fight greenwashing and to provide more information to consumers about the impact of how their food is produced. The concern that we have, and that's why we organize this press conference today, is that the reference methodology, which could be inserted in the text precisely to assess the environmental impact of food products, and which could be the basis for private or public labeling system, a bit like the Nutri-Score, but for the environmental impact, is a methodology based on life cycle assessment, which is called the PEF, the Product Environmental Footprint. It's a methodology that was actually designed by the European Commission and the Joint Research Center 10 years ago, initially for industrial product, manufactured product. The problem is that when this methodology is applied to assess the impact of food products, it basically it gives results which are absurd from a point of view and which completely ignore quite a number of impacts of different methods of productions as well. And there were quite a number of alerts from the scientific community and from NGOs about the fact that they should not be, that the PEF methodology should not be made a reference in the substantiating green claims proposal. And in the end, the Commission itself acknowledged the limitation of a PEF to score agri-food products. So that's why the Commission proposal, which was published last March, includes clear statement about the fact that the PEF methodology is ill-suited to assess the performance of food products. Yet what we see now in the negotiations in the Parliament is the return of the PEF. And we see that in some compromise amendments, there are some reference being proposed to so-called PEF category rules. And this is a concern, and this is why we've invited two experts that will explain to you what are the problems with the PEF methodology and their limitations. And let me just be clear on the fact that there is a lot at stake with this methodology. It's not merely a technical issue. It will basically provide a basis for telling consumers which products are good for the environment or not, and telling producers how they should adapt their farming practices to improve their impact on the environment as well. So if we have a methodology like the PEF, which by construct and by design gives the best scores to product from intensive farming and the worst scores to product from extensive farming and organic agriculture, This will be in complete contradiction with the objectives of a Green Deal and of a Farm to Fork strategy. Ecology. So we have with us today two experts who will explain the limitation of the PEF methodology. I hope you can still see us.
Yes.
And why do we have experts from France? Because this debate on sustainability labeling and which methodology should underpin the labeling of environmental impact of food products is also happening at the national level. And the debate is more advanced in France because the French government, in its climate and resilience law from 2021, precisely made it clear that the French government will adopt a national law aimed at providing more information to consumers about the environmental impact of food products, and launched an experiment to test different methodologies on how to build this environmental scoring and how to convey the information to consumers as well. So that's why the debate has been rather intense in France in the last 2 years on this topic. So we have with us today Quentin Chancé. Quentin Chancé, thank you for being with us. Quentin is a researcher, a sociologist attached to a laboratory from the CNRS in France. We are sorting out the echo. And Quentin is also a part of a group of researchers who have been precisely looking at the methodologies like life cycle assessments and the product environmental footprint and their relevance or not to assess the scoring of food products in the context of a French debate. And then we will hear as well from Sabine Bonnot. Sabine Bonnot is a member of ITAB, which is the French Technical Institute for Organic Farming, and which is also the one that has developed, together with organizations from civil society, a labeling initiative called the PlanetScore, which is part of an experiment ongoing in France, testing different systems for the scoring of food products as well. So without further ado, I will give the floor to Quentin for a few words about the report that this group of researchers has released on the LCA and the PEF.
Okay.
Quentin, the floor is yours.
Yes, do you hear me well? Yes, okay. Thank you for
we cannot hear you.
You cannot hear me?
It's because you turned off the speakers.
Just a little bit of technical details.
Now you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So first, thank you for the invitation on this important topic. My presentation for 5 minutes is in 3 points. Who is speaking? Do you know from where comes the message? What is the problem and the preconization of our scientific group? So I'm Quentin Chancé, sociologist, specialized in farming sector, and coordinated the CESIAe, the scientific expert group on sustainability labeling. Just one word about this research committee. So in France, there was this project of affichage environnemental, and when, which is equivalent to green claims, when the first figures coming from the PEF methodology came out, there's a different societal organization, consumer organization, environmental organization in France who react and wanted to better understand why the figures promotes intensification. So one of them, consumer organization, we have C'est que choisir, ask the ministry to have an independent scientific expertise. They send curriculum vitae and they say, okay, to do that. So the CESIAe was born. It's an interdisciplinary committee linking 5 researchers in agronomy, ecology, geography, and sociology, and coordinate the scientific committee whose purpose is to study the process and content of the tools that assess impact on the environment. So what is the problem and why we are here? Just did the slide to put the context and better understand why it's not so easy to develop an assessment of the environmental impact. So we start from a nature society issue. Mainly, we tend to destroy the environment, so it becomes a problem. We care about the environment. So from this problem, we've got green claims, which are things written on the stuff we buy, who tells us this product's ecological, sustainable, green, nature friendly. And it gets a political program called green claims because we don't know if it's greenwashing or not. And we need to prove these green claims to avoid to spread false information and not doing the right thing for the habitability of the planet. So the idea has been to create an evaluation tool to assess the environmental impacts. So going from words to figures to explain the problem. So there's this project, there's numerous possibilities to do that. There are thousands of ways to create an indicators. In sociology of quantification, we know that creating an evaluation tools is not describing a reality which is already there. It's part of a process that has to define what we evaluate. How do we define what we evaluate? What are the political choice about what we care about and the assessment? How do you weight the different factors? What kind of conceptual framework we use to define the object we assess? So all these things are wrapped up in an evaluation tool. And from all the possibility, what the European Commission and also in France, government choose, they choose the life cycle analysis framework called product environmental footprint, which is an application of LCA to the evaluation of environmental impact. The issue is that this method, the path is irrelevant for farming. And to understand that, you have two ways of doing it. First one, you look at the figures this methodology produces, and you compare the figures with the reality. This is mainly what the Environmental Association did, the one I cited in the first slide, and it's also what the ecology and agronomic science do when they go on the field and they evaluate the biodiversity, the environment, and they try to catch an agronomic system, the reality, with different parameters we define it. When we do that, you realize that promoting intensification is not the best way to prevent environmental problem. The other possibilities is the one we did in the CESIAe report, is to open the black box, open the evaluation tools, look inside, and try to understand what has been used. So this is what is on the I just described here. The PEF methodology is based on the LCA framework. LCA framework is a research committee dedicated to life cycle analysis and market communities who create assessments. The approach, the cognitive framework of an LCA analysis is reductionist, which is different than systemic thinking. That is the thing we promote in agronomy and ecology. So it leads to this reductionist approach to the issues presented here. It promotes intensifications. It avoids core issues such as pesticide, biodiversities, or nitrogen cycles. And it invisible the effects of diffuse pollution. So scientifically speaking, the PEF is not relevant to make an assessment tools that respond to the goal of a political program. And societally, it's not responsible because it promotes systems we know empirically they're not good for the environment. Next slide. So what are CESIAe's preconization? For food labeling, we advise to use more of the agronomical and ecological scientific knowledge to develop assessment tools. Like I tried to show on these pictures, science is a big arena with different communities, And you can use the tools from the LCI community, but I show here it's a reductionist approach. So there's problem using that. But it could be interesting to use all the knowledge we produce in ecology, agronomy, and sociology to promote a systemic approach to create an assessment environmental who is needed for agriculture specifically. And final point, recommendation. The product environmental footprint has been developed to assess all the economic sectors. And we see it's not relevant for agriculture due to reductionist approach. So different possibility. One possibility would be to create a specificity for agriculture by not using the PEF for this sector. We could reduce significatively the use of the PEF for the agricultural sector and mainly mobilize systemic approach. Or in any case, could we should allow independent assessment and labeling that are sectorial, but specific to agricultural sector, for example, such as PlanetScore, in the regulatory framework with public approval and recognition. That would be necessary to have different kind of assessment methodology to exist, and particularly to fit with the specificity of agriculture. So to conclude, the report published by the CESIAe on November 2023 demonstrates that the PEF's life cycle analysis method, though useful in some contexts, is fundamentally unsuited for agri-food products. Its reductionist approach fails to capture the complex interactions in agriculture, leading to skewed environmental assessments. It is not a question of fixing or patching the PEF for farming. There is a clear need for other metrics. So we advocate for more comprehensive methodologies that accurately reflect the unique challenges and impacts of the agricultural sector, recognizing the need for a diverse array of assessment tools to truly reflect and drive environmental sustainability. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Quentin, for explaining very clearly in this introduction the limitation of a PEF and the fact that the PEF is irrelevant for farming because it's unable, like you said, to catch all the complexities of farming system, and it ignores largely some impacts on biodiversity or linked to the use of pesticides, which are precisely some of the aspects where extensive farming system and organic agriculture has the most benefits as well, but they are not largely ignored by the PEF as well. We will open the floor for question later, but first we will hear more about the limitation of the PEF from Sabine Bonnot, who, as I said, is a member of ITAB in France and was contributed to developing the PlanetScore, which is another methodology which shows that it is possible to have methodologies that do not rely solely on life cycle analysis. So, Sabine, the floor is yours.
Hi. Sabine, we don't have.
Sorry, the mic was off, I guess. Thank you very much for the invitation. I guess the main point was made clearly by Quentin Chancé. PEF is not science, and that it's really worrying to see that this method could come back on the stage. PEF methodology is not science, and that's written very clearly in other reports. IDRI report in 2021, CESIAe report, November 23, but also in the own report by Commission's GRC in 2018. It states any weighting system, as in any weighting system, PEF is not mainly natural science-based, but inherently involves value choices that will depend on policy, cultural, and other preferences and value systems. There is no consensus on weighting that seems to be achievable. So that's in the technical report by the GRC, and we've had many discussions with the Commission in the last 2 years about this fact for farming. in March last year, when releasing the draft of the Green Claim proposal, the Commission declared before the press that it had learned from the lessons of developing the PEF over 10 years, and that considering its structural flaws, especially for food, fish, and textile sectors, which are cited in the proposal, it was not adequate to take this approach as a unique or central reference. And instead, the Commission established a list of conditions in Article 8 to be respected by independent methodologies to ensure reliability, transparency, and affordability, especially for small and medium enterprises. So PEF compliance is not on the list established by the Commission in this article last year. We've also had another report lately in October by the French Ministry of Agriculture, stating, looking at the ecological labeling, that the ministry mission considers that it would have been preferable to set the course for food and agroecological transitions before working on environmental labeling, meaning that the vision and where we want to go collectively for farming should be stated first. And they state that scores are only tools for achieving the objectives set by public policy, and that everything should be done to ensure the consistency with public policy objectives. So that's a huge point, because with reductionist approaches, there is no way we can do that. So yes, PEF is not suitable for farming. So I would just put a few examples here. The bigger is the number, these are PEF numbers, the bigger is the number, and the worst is, reputedly, is the system on the environment or the product. So as you see here, clearly free-range farmers, free-range products are not good according to the PEF. Same for chickens. By far, they are not good for the environment if they are free-range. Same for this type of pork production. As you see, the PEF is just clearly in favor of more industrialized systems. Same for fruits, vegetables, cereals, etc. And if you have to choose between meats, then you will have to clearly go on the left-hand side according to the PEF. So as Quentin Chancé said, it's not a question of patching or fixing that methodology for farming. It's okay for other sectors, but not for farming. And this is really what's in the PEF. Lamb should be the ultimate ecological disaster. So is that trustworthy for farming? We really think scientifically and societally it is not. And as you see, this is just an example of one scheme, which is named EcoScore, and which uses PEF as a labeling methodology. So the value choices behind the PEF, it's really the ultimate reductionist tool, thinking primarily in terms of efficiency, and that's okay, that's suitable for nuts and bolts factories. These are industrial goods. This is not okay for farming and living systems, unless we really want to believe that caged hens are the best egg producing system for the environment, or that the ultimate ecological disaster would be extensive lambs on European permanent pastures. And that would be far worse than any imported fruits, vegetables, or even poultry. These would be really questionable value choices, and these are choices by the PEF. Systemic approaches are really needed. And the value choices behind the PEF are wrong for farming, or they promote still more intensification, more pressure on farming practices, on nature. Quentin Chancé told about what we can really see empirically, and we have to get tools that really reflect what's going on in nature and in the fields. It's still more pressure on animals and on farmers' revenues. So that's just more of the same story that has been crushing farmers and pushing them into desperate actions. as we see currently. PEF is not a consumer transparency nor an eco-design tool for food products. It is unable to fight against greenwashing. It is unable to reflect farmers and producers' efforts. So it could destroy, again, lots of value for farmers. And very briefly, other metrics are possible, and we've proven that. I'm not going to get into methodology, but we're using part of some of the PEF indicators, only 12 of them, and having a much more complete 25 indicators systemic approach to render a global systemic picture. PEF is a minor part of PlanetScore assessment tool. PlanetScore is currently being developed along this line of Article 8 in the directive with obvious real-life relevance for more than 300 companies currently assessing their products, food products in 12 countries across Europe. It is scalable. It is concrete for farmers. We're working with farmers and cooperatives. It's aligned with public ecological policies for our sector. It's been scaled up in the biggest French consumer association on more than 130,000 products, food products. It is in supermarkets. It is also in digital website. As you see, it compares quite clearly food products between each other. It's also on pack for more than 80 brands and companies right now, and upscaling quite quickly. This is also on pack, so that's really quite a thrill at the moment. And as you see, that's a way to really differentiate products, and not according to intensification, but to real systemic impact. So these are just a few examples with pasta and pizza. Scaling up here. And so just to conclude that other metrics are possible, and surveys reveal that in many European countries, consumers do not trust companies nor public authorities. So that should be collectively a big concern when it relates to ecological topics. We really need to build things that are okay for NGOs, okay for consumer associations, and okay for scientists. And to build trust, there is a strong need for methodologies which are relevant, independent, and endorsed by civil society, scientists, consumer association, NGOs. The Drive Directive makes this framework a reality through Article 8, and this is a huge step towards innovative and cooperative ways to make a transition happen. So this is just one survey which has been presented at the French Parliament early last year. Trust has to be built collectively. Otherwise, this is going to be, again, a tool that's not going to be okay for consumers. And last thing, when trust is lacking, this is what happens currently for carbon credits. It works 1, 2, 3 years, and then it crashes. And we can't put energy and money as farmers, as companies, in something that's going to crash on the wall of reality. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sabine. So to sum it up, to be very clear, if the PEF methodology was set up as the reference methodology also to assess the environmental impact of food products in the green claims proposal, that would be a disaster. And that would be in complete contradiction with the objectives of a Farm to Fork strategy to have a reduction of pesticides in Europe, to have a reduction of the use of synthetic fertilizers, and to improve the protection of biodiversity, which is also in the EU biodiversity strategy. Like our speakers have said very clearly, no methodology is neutral. And clearly, with a methodology like the PEF, you're basically telling consumers and producers that you need to further intensify agriculture in Europe as well. And like it was said as well, it's not a matter of fixing the PEF. When you use functional unit and you measure impacts by kilograms of carrot that you produce, by design, you automatically have a methodology that gives the best scores to systems which yield the most, but at the same time, which disregard the impact of the inputs that are used and the impact on biodiversity as well. I think we can now open the floor to questions. Yes.